Hi, good evening, all of you, and welcome to a new episode of Arguably the Reading Quest. I am Nishant. ईयर 2011 में एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत और बेहद poignant फिल्म आई थी जिसका नाम था डिटैचमेंट. In the year 2011, it was a story of a teacher who happened to be a role model for his students, and that was apparently based on the life of a famous French philosopher Albert Camus, as some of the critics say. उस मूवी की एक बहुत फेमस कोट है, मोनोलॉग है, विच आई वुड लाइक टू recite out to all of you before further delving into the video. So उस मूवी में there's a scene where the teacher is explaining the students about a certain concept called ubiquitous assimilation. So the monologue goes, doublethink means to deliberately believe in lies while knowing they're false. Examples of this in everyday life are, oh, I need to be pretty to be happy. I need surgery to be pretty. I need to be thin, famous, fashionable. Our young men today are being told that women are things to be and shammed. All such cuss words. This is a marketing holocaust. 24 hours a day for the rest of our lives, the powers that be are hard at work dumbing us to death. So, to defend ourselves and fight against assimilating this dullness into our thought processes, we must learn to read. Yes, you have heard it right. We must learn to read. To stimulate our own imagination, to cultivate our own consciousness, our own belief systems, we all need skills to defend, to preserve our own mind. So this is a very iconic monologue from the movie Detachment of the year 2011. The author talks about marketing holocaust. What is very less talked about the marketing holocaust is the growing multi-billion industry of self-help books. This has been a growing industry for the past 2 decades. And as per the Google report, in the year 2022, it was estimated to be 13.5 or $13.6 billion industry that is growing at an annual rate of increase of 5 to 6% every year. Another marketing holocaust of our times. And at bookstops, at public places, in libraries, in metros, in restaurants, every nook and corner of the street, you will find these books being proudly flaunted by the so-called reader of these books. Thanks to the growing intellectual vacuum amongst our reading fraternity, the bankruptcy of critical reasoning, the deteriorating literary taste, and the ostensible media influences of our time, people are consuming anything and everything that is, being given to them on a platter. They are surrounded by so much of nonsense that they always try to find a sense in all those nonsense, and that is dangerous. So this video was particularly made with an intention to make you aware and as a warning that why you should not read self-help books. My objection to self-help books are multiple, but before that, a common argument in favor of self-help books is that, okay, millions and millions of people are reading it, so why I should not read it? Please understand, just because million of people share the same disorder, that does not make the disorder any less a disorder. Even if 50 million people believe in a foolish idea, that still remains a foolish idea. Please understand. And that million of people share the same kind of idiocy does not make them look any less idiotic. Please understand. An ancient philosopher Epictetus says that an opinion of 10,000 men doesn't matter if none of them knows anything about the subject. So if you're trapped in this culture of reading self-help books, please be aware you're trapped in a hustle culture, a culture of toxic positivity, addiction, and the world of fake gurus. While my objection to self-help books are multiple, I would like to, recount a few objections very quickly. First of all, they offer an illusion of progress. You read one book, you feel good about it, You go to Amazon, you buy the next one, and so on and so forth, without examining, has it changed anything for you? So what self-help books offer is the illusion of progress. Please pause, reflect, and introspect. What you call progress is actually the illusion of progress. The kind of solutions they offer: write down your everyday routine, be more focused, do more exercise, be more aware, okay, be more extrovert, thereby ridiculing your real problem. The second claim is that they offer solutions that have no empirical evidences in either literature or in psychology. Sometimes when you need real help, it's better to lie down on a couch with a psychiatrist or a psychoanalyst, because you know that the person whom you're talking to has at least some backing in 100 years of empirical research and evidences based in psychology. This is where self-help book becomes disastrous. The third is that they create a customer base that remains trapped. You buy one book, the second one, the third one, so on and so forth. My another objection is that first they ridicule your problem. They offer a false sense of optimism that further leads to disillusionment and frustration. Please know that self-help books are a multi-billion industry, and they thrive on your being discontent, disillusioned, and unhappy. So, as a logic of their business, it is not in their very DNA to offer you a real solution. Because the moment you become happy, the moment you become content, the moment you become someone who consumes less of their ideas, their business will fall flat. So please pause, reflect, and analyze. What kind of hopes they sell? You're just one step away from an amazing life. They have some solution. You need to enroll to their podcast. You need to enroll to their public speaking program. You need to buy a special package. You need to do some kind of yoga, some kind of meditation techniques, some kind of mystical awareness program that is offered to the cult of the believers who have the capacity to buy the program. So once you buy the program, you're just one step away from the solution of all the problems of your life, apparently, as they claim, which is again a disaster. So they're creating a marketing, a customer based on marketing holocausts that have apparently no empirical evidences. So please stop reading self-help book. Instead, I'm going to suggest you 4 books in this video that are very powerful books rooted in psychology, literature, philosophy, and history, and that will give you some real-time solution. So the first book that immediately comes to my mind is Man's Search for Meaning, a very powerful book written by Viktor Frankl, a Nazi death camp survivor, a Jewish psychiatrist who, when somehow survived the death camp, finally wrote this book, that what all it takes to be alive in such a horrifying, disastrous, death-like situation. Before that, please listen to some of the powerful quotes that will act as an antidote to these so-called self-help books. We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away the last piece of their bread. They may have been few in numbers, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Then Viktor Frankl says, don't aim at success. You see, this is very antithetical to what the self-help books tell you, that you should aim higher and higher, you should shoot for the stars, if you miss you'll land on moon, and blah blah blah, all such rubbish and bullshit. Here Viktor Frankl says that don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensure, it must follow. And it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. Happiness must happen, And the same holds for success. It is a product of something else. It is an effect of some larger cause. You have to let it happen by not caring about it. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do and go on to carry it out to the best of your knowledge. Then you will live to see that in the long run, I say, success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think about it. For the first time in my life, I saw the truth as it is set into songs by so many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of man is through love and in love. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. One can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. By his love, he is enabled to see the essential traits and features in the beloved person, and even more, he sees that which is potential in him, which is not yet actualized, but yet ought to be actualized. Furthermore, by his love, the loving person enables the beloved person to actualize these potentialities. By making him aware of what he can be and of what he should become, he makes these potentialities come true, says Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning. And then the preface of this book tells us that this book does not claim to be an account of facts and events, but of personal experiences. Experiences which millions of prisoners have suffered time and again. It is the inside story of a concentration camp told by one of its survivors. So this book deals with history, psychology, and philosophy. It is about human suffering and the light of hope that shines even in the darkest times. Viktor Frankl survived Nazi concentration camp. His experiences would enable him to develop his psychological theories aimed at helping people. That psychological theory is called logotherapy, which he developed during his years in the concentration camp. And as a survivor, Viktor Frankl recounts what helps him going while facing many harrowing situations in the camp. According to the author, a feeling that life has a meaning and a sense of purpose, no matter what it is essential. And the meaning shouldn't be anything abstract. The meaning is something that should be concrete, that should be more immediate. One has to expect something from the future in order to endure cruelty and injustice. And as they say, what cannot be cured must be endured. But in order to endure, you must find some sense in suffering. And then Viktor Frankl divides his inspiring book into two parts. The first describes his experience living in Nazi death camp and how he dealt with the doom and decay that always surrounded him. And the second section explores a type of therapy that arose from his time in the death camps. Logotherapy, as I told you. So logotherapy focuses on helping people find meaning in their lives, to give them a greater sense of purpose, and to push them past the obstacles they face. He writes that people can discover meaning in three different ways. First is by creating a work or doing a deed, an act. Second thing is by experiencing something or encountering someone. The third thing is by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. And the last option, the third option, is meaningful only when the first two options are unavailable. So please read this book, Man's Search for Meaning, once again. An amazing, iconic book, a powerful book. Please listen to these quotes once again. Modern man has transformed himself into a commodity. He experiences his life energy as an investment with which he should make the highest profit, considering his position and the situation on the personality market. He is alienated from himself, from his fellow men, and from nature. His main aim is the profitable exchange of his skills, knowledge, and of himself, his personality package, with others who are equally intent on a fair and profitable exchange. Life has no goals except the one to move. No principle except the one of fair exchange. No satisfaction except the one to consume. The whole life of individual is nothing but the process of giving birth to himself, indeed. We should be fully born when we die, although it is the tragic fate of most individuals to die before they are born. It is naively assumed that the fact that majority of people share certain ideas or feeling proves the validity of these ideas and feelings. Nothing is further from the truth. Consensual validation as such has no bearing on reason or mental health. The fact that millions of people share the same vices does not make these vices virtues. The fact that they share so many errors does not make the errors to be truth. And the fact that millions of people share the same form of mental pathology does not make these people sane. And then Eric Fromm says that the danger of the past was that men became slaves. The danger of the future is that men became robots. How prescient, you see. The pathology of normalcy rarely deteriorates to graver forms of mental illnesses because society produces the antidote against such deterioration. When pathological processes become socially patterned, they lose their individual character. On the contrary, the sick individual finds himself at home with all other similarly sick individuals. The whole culture is geared to this kind of pathology and arrange the means to give satisfactions which fit the pathology. The result is that the average individual does not experience the separateness and isolation the fully schizophrenic person feels. He feels at ease among those who suffer from the same deformation. In fact, it is the fully sane person who feels isolated in the insane society. In fact, it is the fully sane person who feels isolated in the insane society. And he may suffer so much from the incapacity to communicate that it is he who may become psychotic. So you please pause and please ponder on these powerful quotes. So welcome to the second book, that is by Eric Fromm, The Sane Society. And Eric Fromm was an iconic social psychologist of the Frankfurt School. So in this book, Eric Fromm dissects, a post-mortem of the profound ills of modern society and how best to overcome them. And this is one of the Fromm's main interest, and that was to analyze the social system and their impact on mental health of the individual. So in this study, he reaches further and asks, can a society be sick? And he proves that yes, society can be sick. And he finds that it can be, arguing that the Western culture, because of course he was from Germany, so he was analyzing the Western culture, that largely applies post-globalization to our culture as well, is immersed in a pathology of normalcy, and that affects the mental health of the individual. So in the Sane Society, Eric Fromm examines the alienating effect of the modern capitalism, and he discusses the historical and the contemporary alternatives, particularly the communitarian systems. And finally, he presents new ideas for a reorganization of, he doesn't only criticize, he also provides a solution, he also provides a groundwork for the development of a saner society through a reorganization of economics, politics, and culture that would support the individual's mental health and our profound need for love and freedom. So please read that book. Now please listen to another quote, and then I'll introduce the book. The real hopeless victims of mental illness are to be found among those who appear to be mostly normal. Many of them are normal because they are so well adjusted to our mode of existence, because their human voice has been silenced so early in their lives that they do not even struggle or suffer or develop symptoms as the neurotic does. They are normal not in what may be called the absolute sense of the word. They are normal one in relation to a profoundly abnormal society. Their perfect readjustment or adjustment to the abnormal society is a measure of their mental sickness. These millions of abnormally normal people, you see there's a powerful oxymoron here. Abnormally normal people living without fuss in a society to which, if they were fully aware human being, they ought not to be adjusted, says Aldous Huxley. And you see, Aldous Huxley and Eric Fromm are so similar in their writing styles that both of them can be mistaken for the writing style of each other. So here I am reading Aldous Huxley, but you see it has all the character of Fromm writing, and I read Fromm, it has all the characters of Aldous Huxley writing. I'll introduce the book later. Please listen to another quote. In regard to propaganda, the early advocates of universal literacy and free press envisaged only two possibilities. The propaganda might be true or the propaganda might be false. They did not see what in fact has happened above all in our Western capitalistic democracies, the development of a vast mass communication industry concerned in the main neither with true nor with the false, but with the unreal, the more or less totally irrelevant. In a world they fail to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distractions. I read it once again, please listen. In a word, they fail to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distractions. In the past, most people never got a chance of fully satisfying this appetite. They might long for distraction, but the distraction were not provided. Christmas came but once a year. Feasts were solemn and rare. There were few readers and very little to read, and the nearest approach to a neighborhood movie theater was the parish church, where the performances, though frequent, were somewhat monotonous. For conditions even remotely comparable to those now prevailing, we must return to imperial Rome, where the populace was kept in good humor by frequent, gratuitous doses of many kinds of entertainment, from poetical drama to gladiator fights, from recitation of Virgil to all-out boxing, from concert to military reviews and public executions. But even in Rome, there was nothing like the non-stop distraction that is now provided by the newspapers and the magazines, by radio, television, and in cinema. So in one of his books, he talks about non-stop distraction of the most fascinating nature, and that are deliberately used as an instrument of policy for the purpose of preventing people from paying too much attention to the realities of the social and the political situation. Just pause this video for a while, I insist, and just see how horrifying and frightening it appears. The other world of religion is different from the other world of entertainment, but they resemble one another, being most decidedly not of this world. Both are distractions, and if lived in too much continuity, they can both become, in Marx's phrase, the opium of the masses. A society, most of whose members spent a great part of their time not on the spot, not here and now in their calculable future, but somewhere else in the irrelevant world of sports and soap opera, of mythology and metaphysical fantasy, will find it hard to resist the encroachment of those who would manipulate and control it. And then, regarding propaganda, Aldous Huxley further says that the principles lying propaganda are extremely simple. Find some common desire, some widespread unconscious fear or anxiety. Think out some way to relate this wish or fear to the product you have to sell. They build a bridge of verbal or pictorial symbols over which your customer can pass from fact to compensatory dreams, and from dream to the illusion that your product, when purchased, will make them the dream come true. They are selling hopes. Remember the world of self-help, the age of marketing holocaust, as I started the video with. We no longer buy oranges, we buy vitality. We do not buy an auto, we buy prestige. We do not buy cars, we buy prestige. And so with all the rest. In toothpaste, for example, we do not buy a mere cleaner and antiseptic, but the release from the fear of being sexually repulsive. In vodka and whiskey and beer, we are not buying a protoplasmic poison which in small doses may depress the nervous system in a psychologically valuable way. We are buying friendliness and good fellowship, the warmth of a company. With our laxatives, we are buying the health of a Greek god. With a monthly bestseller, we acquire the culture, the envy of our less literate neighbors, and the respect of the sophisticated neighbors. In every sense, the motivation analyst has found some deeper some deep-seated wish or fear whose energy can be used to move the customer to part with cash and so indirectly to turn the wheels of industry, says Aldous Huxley in this iconic work Brave New World Revisited. If you see, I have done a video on Aldous Huxley versus George Orwell some 2-3 months back. But this is about Brave New World Revisited. Brave New World Revisited is a non-fiction book that explores the themes of his fiction Brave New World. So when the novel Brave New World appeared first in 1932, it was shocking to the reader and it was ridiculed as a science fiction. But Aldous Huxley scrutinizes threats to humanity such as overpopulation, propaganda, chemical persuasion, and explain why we have found it virtually impossible to avoid them. And please know, if there's one man who is equally fluent in and equally deeply entrenched in Western culture as much as he is fluent and thorough in his understanding of Occidental philosophy, Eastern mysticism, is none other than Aldous Huxley. So he was hugely influenced by Upanishads, Dhampad, the Gita, and all the Eastern mystical system. So he has a very comparative outlook about the Western culture versus the Eastern culture, the Western civilization versus the Eastern civilization. So none other than Aldous Huxley for you to develop an alternative belief system that shields you from the marketing holocaust. So please read Brave New World Revisited. Please understand. Now, I again read the quote. As a child, I felt myself to be alone, and am still, because I know things and must hint at things which others apparently know nothing of, and for the most part do not want to know. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. The greatest and the most important problems of life are all, in a certain sense, insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. This outgrowing, as I formerly called it, on further experience, was seen to consist in a new level of consciousness. Some higher or wider interest arose on a person's horizon, and through this widening of view, the insoluble problem of your life lost its urgency. It was not solved logically in its term, but faded out when confronted with a new and stronger life tendency. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own souls. One does not become enlightened by imagining imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The decisive question for man is he related to something infinite or not? That is the telling question of his time. Telling here means significant. Only if we know that the things which truly matters is the infinite can we avoid fixing our interests upon futilities and upon all kind of goals which are not of real importance. Thus we demand that the world grant us recognition from qualities which we regard as personal possession, our talent or our beauty. The more a man lays stress on false possessions and the less sensitivity he has for what is essential, the less satisfying is his life. He feels limited because he has limited aims, and the result is envy and jealousy. If we understand and feel that here in this life we already have a link with the infinite, desires and attitudes change. Yes. Welcome to an iconic book by an iconic psychiatrist, The Undiscovered Self by Carl Jung. The Undiscovered Self by Carl Jung. It's a small booklet but a very powerful one. Just to tell you a review by Andrew Simels, he's a professor of analytical psychology. What he says about this book: that do you hate being treated as an object in the organizational system of bureaucrats and politicians? Question mark. Does the hard sell of today's mass consumerism repel you? Are you less than enthusiastic for the wonders of technology? Are you deeply suspicious of globalization and all that attends it? Are you worried about the future of humanity on this ravaged planet? If yes, in this path breaking text, Carl Jung sets out in the clearest possible terms what one has to do as an individual to stand up to these trends in contemporary society. So, in this challenging and provocative work, Carl Jung, one of the history's greatest mind, please know, and when I say history, greatest mind, it's not an hyperbole, argues that civilization's future depend on our ability as an individual to resist the collective forces of society. And only by gaining an awareness and understanding of one's unconscious mind and true inner nature, the undiscovered self, as the title of the book is, can we as an individual acquire the self knowledge that is antithetical to ideological fanaticism and a world wedded with totalitarian system and maddening bureaucracy. So, in this seminal book, Jung compellingly argues that only then we can begin to cope with the dangers posed by mass society, the sum total of individuals, and resist the potential threat posed by those in power. So that is all for today, guys, in this video. Thank you for watching. If you have still not liked, shared and subscribed the video, please do that and please spread the word. And please do tell me in comments how do you like the video, and please do tell me what kind of video would you like to see and for me to make. Thank you all of you. Happy reading.